Hello there, humans, bees, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you're lucky enough to be doing it too. I'm Bushka on Blitz, and I'm back to do it with you today in the Kuro Moro Mini. I hope that's how you say it. It could be the Kuro Moro Mine. I don't know, because I'm not from Japan. I've never spoken the language, and as much as I'd like to, I'm not about to start now. This is a Tier 6 tank. It is a Tier 6 heavy tank, and it actually looks fantastic. I think it looks absolutely brilliant. It is modelled, obviously, on the Tiger 1 that you see in game, and it has some startling similarities with the Tiger 1. And I'm running this tank at the moment and doing the review at the moment because obviously there is an event on, the Girls Under Panzer event, which is pretty popular for a lot of the humans out there. I'm a big fan of this out of all the GUP tanks because I think it just looks the best. It looks the hottest. And it's kind of the fulfillment of a dream for all of us to have the Tiger 1 as a proper big heavy tank. Because it is, at Tier 7, much more of a heavium, a medium heavy, without a large armour profile, and with more of the very heavy gun handling there, with more of the speed and the agility, and that's been buffed over the last few patches to be that style of tank. However, if you have a look at the armour profile of the tank, now I'm using Armour Inspector here, hats off to Andrew Kapushin for the idea, the original idea, and Clement Durand, who did the interface recently, I believe. You can see that's the armour profile of the Tiger 1, the Tier 7 German Heavy. And this is the armour profile of the Kuro Moro Mini. I couldn't get the high definition, but you can basically see the areas that aren't red are where you can be penned, and they're exactly the same on both tanks. You have the same armor profile as the Tiger 1, which isn't an overwhelming armor profile, but it's an armor profile at Tier 6 that will allow you to side scrape and really do quite well. In fact, you also have the same gun as the Tiger 1. The only difference being that the Tiger 1's gun goes a hell of a lot quicker in terms of rate of fire than the gun on the Kuro Moro Mini. They both run the 8.8 centimeter KWK 36L56. On the Kuro, you get a paltry 8.41 rounds a minute, but on the Tiger, you get 12.28 rounds a minute, which is freaking lovely. And while they do have a lot of similarities both in their loadouts and their equipment, their playstyles are a little bit different. The Kuro's very similar in terms of armor, but it's at a tier where its armor is actually very, very relevant. It gets away with this armor profile, whereas the Tiger 1 at Tier 7 really has to use its armor more as an afterthought. It can side scrape, it angles, that's of course the way forward, but it's not always going to be the case that the armor is the saving grace. That's far more likely to happen when you're driving against Tier 6 and Tier 5 tanks than it is when you drive against Tier 7 and Tier 8 tanks. Not surprisingly, obviously, if you dropped any tank's armor down a couple of tiers, you'd be very, very happy with the result. Now, the Kuro is such a long held out for wish because a lot of people love driving the Tiger 1 as a heavy tank, as a true heavy tank. And in this incarnation, you can. And it is actually a bloody lovely tank. It's a bit of a beastie. The gun I found to be trollish, and I was getting a bit hung up on it at first until I realised it's a heavy tank gun, and it's not a bad heavy tank gun. It's actually just the fact that it's a heavy tank gun means that sometimes you get caught up in the idea that you're going to have amazing pen and all those kind of things. And that's, simply put, just not the case. The Tiger's top tier gun is .308. The Kuro's is .344, which is also the same as the VK3601H and the M6, the big tubby American tank. And that's important to note because if you are thinking that gun's not that crash hot, you'd be very, very wrong. In fact, you would be very, very wrong. The gun's lovely for a heavy tank at Tier 6. In fact, and it can side scrape, as you're going to see. I'm going to quickly angle up here, do a quick side scrape off this building and catch a shot on the tracks because it can certainly do that. And against Tier 5 and 6 competition, that's not so hard. Whereas it's very, very hard for the Tiger 1 to be doing that reliably at Tier 7. So you've got good armor, you've got a very reasonable gun in terms of gun handling. I mean, Your aim time is 2.08, which is exactly the same as the 3601H and the M6. Your gun depression is 8 degrees, which is a little bit under the M6, but again, on par with the 36OH, and it's even better than the Tiger 1 too. And your top speed is 40 kilometers an hour, which is bloody lovely for a heavy tank. It really is. That's an effective top speed for a tier 6 heavy tank. And your terrain resistance numbers are right in keeping with most heavies, 1.3, 1.5 and 2.4. Your traverse numbers are also pretty good, 27 degrees of no mod traverse according to Blitz stars, which is where I'm getting these stats from. Now, if you're wondering what Blitz stars is, that's a very good mate of mine, Dave Sockrubber, runs Blitz stars. He's a great dude. Go and check that out. It's got all the stats there of everyone that's playing the game and search their name. And if you want to know what someone's stats are, go on there and look at them. And it also has a thing called Tank Compare. And Tank Compare allows you to actually go through and compare the values of tanks, both in terms of gun handling, traverse, armour, all that kind of thing. So it's well worth getting a hold of. You can see the gun, it gets a bit trollish at times, but for the most part, it's very Tiger-esque. It's very solid. The reticle is small. The armour profile is nice. It's just all round a really lovely drive for a heavy tank. It's got a great blend of mobility, damage, and real armor profile at a tier where there's not a huge prevalence for that kind of combination. Tier 6 is not renowned for masses of tanks that can both have good gun handling and decent armor. If you're looking for a bit of a dark horse, have a look at the 3601H. That's another one that can actually... I did a review on not so long ago, and it's a tank that can surprise you with just how effective it can be. Out of all these Girl Under Panda tanks, this is the one I feel is easily the best. The Anko, obviously, very different. The new Hetzer look-alike, very, very different again. But this one, they got it absolutely correct. They dropped the Tiger 1 down a tier. They changed the gun handling stats to be more in line with a tier 6 heavy tank. And it's lovely. It's absolutely lovely. And you're going to see, I'll show you one more game. This is obviously not one of my favourite maps. This is Copperfield. Now, the reason this isn't one of my favourite maps is because it's just so small. The effective combat area from one side to the next is pretty rough in that you can be very efficiently sniped, and you can see the Big Daddy Tiger 1 there pushing up, and so I'm going to move up here and try and help out. That's a more stock Tiger 1 than the one that just ran into me from behind. You can see we angle up and do get a bounce there, which is lovely. This tank has also been done a lot of favours by the change to premium ammunition, which does less damage. It means that you are more or less... Oh, and hang on, there is a Jagdpanther there. We try and sneak one in, but he's been watching for us. We just get a track. If you're going to get penned when side-scraping by tanks and they have to go to Premo to do it, you're going to take a little bit less of punishment. And that whole increased survivability that 3.8 and 3.9 have brought have really seen some of the lesser lights become more prominent within the game, which I think is bloody lovely. You can see I've been very aggressive here. I'm keeping my angles up. I'm just trying to sneak out and get a shot in this Jagdpanther. Now, you're going to see this isn't crash hot. This is when you're up against tier 7 competition. Your penetration is a little bit weak. 145 isn't huge, and I try and pen there with AP. I didn't want to use the Premo, and I simply couldn't. That Jagdpanther doesn't have the strongest armor profile either, but he was on a slope, which means that he had the highest value he was going to get out of his armor profile. Very flat when it's straight up on the ground. Well, not very flat, but quite flat. But when it's slightly tilted upwards, like it was there on that slope, the armor profile isn't that great. Now you can see I'm moving up here to get shots across, and I'm keeping those guys behind me, exactly behind me, by moving away and behind the cover first. This is one of the reasons I really don't like Copperfield. This whole cross sniping of the map, it means that what would otherwise be a really good heavy fight up here becomes a far less interesting proposition. I know that wasn't ideal. It took too long on target here. I'm sitting here, I'm spotted. I've got to get off the mountain, and I'm going to pay a pretty hefty price for it. And this is where you can see the mobility of the Kuro really come to the fore. Sarnimal's up there, my good mate Sarnimal from Pint. He's in a little bit of strife. Just looking to get a shot in this Cromwell. Now, I wouldn't be I wouldn't be lying if I said I'd like more penetration on this. But as a premium tank that you can grind pretty free and easy via events and such, this is probably more in line. And we get another bounce there. That's great. And that's a tier 6 tank. And we managed to get away. We're pushing, getting away. We know the Yag's coming. Angling, and we get a lucky bounce. So no, he just misses. He gets a bit rushed. We get one into him, knock him off. And we've actually gone from being 2 on 3 to a lovely 2 on 1. And we angle up and get another bounce of that Tiger 1. I wasn't too worried about angling up there and taking one because you can see he's got the stock turret configuration going on, which means he doesn't have the really high pen gun. And we should be able to get this thing done. There's still 2 up there. Sorry, not 2 on 1, 2 on 2. Still the IS to get through, and now we just need a kill shot on this Tiger 1 here. So that's it, guys. That's the Kuro Moro Mini in a nutshell. Stick around, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, watch the videos, enjoy yourselves, look after your mum, look after your dad, look after your brother, your sister, your friends, your dog, your cat, whatever you got going on in your life. Until next time, stay safe on the battlefield.